You know, it's occurred to me that we generate a lot of numbers in this company. We generate income statements and balance sheets and scoreboards, and we buy a lot of equipment and we use a lot of equipment. We have buildings. And it occurred to me that while that is what we do, it's not what we are. And what we are is entwined in all of those numbers and all of that equipment and all of those buildings. And what we are is our beliefs and our behaviors and our traits as a people, as a group of teammates. What I call the ODL culture. And that ODL culture is sort of symbolized by this little pin. And I have, it's SSR. And I have picked 3 words that sort of epitomize that culture: solid, soft, and risky. Now, what does it mean for a company to be solid? Well, what I'd like to do is tell you a couple of old stories out of this little booklet that I put together a couple years ago, the history of our company called The Morning. I'll tell you about 2 men that came to our company over time. The first one was Ken Bukema. And Ken came to us in about 1969, and he was brought in as ODL's first outside salesperson. And Ken taught us a lot of things. He taught me some personal things. He taught me how to use a credit card, because I hadn't had one up till that point. He said to me, "Larry, you can't go out and call on customers in either denim jeans or in a leisure suit. You have to learn how to dress, and here's how you should dress, and here's what you should wear." Ken taught me some really important business things. He said to me, and he said to us, in our little work group, "Larry, you have to get to be a better manufacturer. You're not very good." And he'd come in on Saturday morning and he'd have a trunk full of damaged product. And it would be broken corners and cracked frames and broken glass. And he'd haul it all out of his trunk and say, look what you shipped." He said, "You can't do that. You need to become a better manufacturer. People want good goods. And you need to go to trade shows. You have to get your name out in front of people, and you have to attend these kinds of things. And you need to do all that to become a more solid company." Later, maybe the late 80s, a man by the name of Jim Howard into our lives. And he was a New York City business consultant. And he came to do some work for us, and in the course of his work became a very important mentor and advisor to me and to Dave and to others in our company. And after he'd been with us for a while as an advisor, he said, "Larry, you guys have to go on a fiscal diet." He said, "You have way too much debt. You have $5 million in debt. You have lots of obsolete inventory and bad products and poor product choices. He said, you need to change your way of living. You need to run your business differently. You need to become a more solid company. You need to get out of debt. You need to bring your inventory levels down. You have to make some difficult product choices. You have to become a more solid company." Both of those guys said in different ways, "You can't be this." Both of these logs look about the same from the outside. They're a lot different, aren't they? This one's rotten in the core. This one's about ready to fall down. This is solid. This is who you have to be. You can't be a hollow company. You need to be solid. But there's more to solid than that. What else is part of solid is what I call a culture of inclusion. Now, a culture of inclusion means the scoreboards. It means sharing information with people. If we're going to operate as an effective team, we have to know, all of us have to know what's happening. And we need to understand the numbers, the good numbers as well as some that are not so good. So the scoreboards are a very important part of our culture. I want to tell you a couple of other old stories out of my little booklet. But when I came to ODL in 1963, we had 7 or 8 employees. They were all Caucasian. They were all male. They all lived in Zeeland or on the east side of Holland. They all smoked except my dad. They all thought that perch fishing and pheasant hunting and deer hunting were the only things that were worth spending money on. And that's who we were. Well, I'd say in about 1969, one day we needed some help, and this lady came in to our shop. And we had a little shop on Harrison Avenue in Zeeland, and she lived right across the street. Her name was Wilsie McGilly. She came into the shop and said, "I understand you're looking for some help." And I said, "Well, we are." And she said, "I'd like to help. I'd like to work here." And I said, "Oh, Wilsie, this is not going to work out." I said, "This is a woodworking shop. We have to lift boards. It's dirty in here and it's messy, and nah, I don't think you could do it." And she said, "Well, I think I could do it. And I need the work, and I'm close, and I really want to work here. I can nail those little wooden frames." And I said, "Well, nah, Wilsie, we don't have a place for you to go to the bathroom." I said, This is a one-holer kind of a company. and this isn't going to work." And Wilsie said, "You know what? When I have to use the bathroom, I'll walk across the street and use the bathroom, and then I'll come back to work." I said, "Well, all right, Wilsie, we'll give it a try, but I don't think it's going to work out very well." Well, Wilsie became part of our team, and she was with us for about 15 years, I would say, and became an important part of our work team, and actually made our work team a lot better than it was before. When I came to ODL, this was what our workplace looked like. Not a bad-looking bouquet, but all the flowers were the same color. And that's the way it was. Well, I'll tell you another old story, because after the gender kind of a thing was broken, I remember when I was a kid growing up in Zeeland, that by midsummer, the Hispanic community would move into Zeeland and into West Michigan. And they'd come with their families, and they would come here to pick pickles in the pickle fields. It wasn't the blueberries where they came to pick, it was pickles. And they would come into Zeeland on Saturday night, and they would do their shopping, because all the stores were open on Saturday night, and they would be here from midsummer until September. But by the middle of September, they were all gone. And they went to wherever they went in the wintertime, but they weren't in West Michigan. But then one day, some of the factories began looking for additional help, and there weren't people to work. And so some of these Hispanic folks said, I'm going to stay here for the winter. I can get a job working in one of these shops. And they did. And they began working at different shops in our community, including ODL. And it broke through an ethnic barrier that has been very good and has made us a more solid company. And the Hispanic population now is a very integral part of West Michigan, as well as the African Americans and the Laotians and the Vietnamese and other ethnic cultures that are part of this community. And as a result of all of that, this is what we look like. A much better looking bouquet, isn't it? Yeah, there's still one white flower, because there's still a few Dutchmen around. But not near as many as there were before. And they were never that good anyhow. So, but this is a much better bouquet, and one that has made us a more solid type of company. Being solid means that our demeanor has got to be solid, or we won't continue to be a player in this business. Solid. I want you to remember that word. I want to talk about being soft. What does it mean to be a soft company? Well, I remember again when I was a kid growing up in Zeeland, my mother, Clara, used to be the discipliner in our house. And when I was a little kid and needed to be punished, which was from time to time, my mother would grab my ear like this, and she'd twist it. And I'm sure she only twisted it about 90 degrees, but it felt like 180 degrees. And she would say, "Lawrence, you go sit on that toilet until your dad gets home." But my dad, Cy Mulder, who incidentally started our business in 1945, he would come home and he would scold me. And that's about all he'd do, because my dad was really softy, and he had a compassionate heart. And that sort of flowed into his business. And I remember when in the winter in Zeeland, when he would invite people in to sleep overnight at our house, some employees from out in the plant, when they couldn't get home, because we had a lot worse winters then than we have now. But they would stay overnight and sleep there and go back to work in the morning. That's who my dad was. And he would buy these station wagons from time to time whenever he could afford it, and give them to different mission groups around here to take wherever they took those kinds of things. And he always tithed in his church. And if anybody came over, the neighbors or relatives, and said, I need this fixed or that fixed, he would help them fix those things. He was a very kind-hearted, compassionate person. And that flowed into his business. And what that means for us today, I believe, is that we need to have the same kind of softness and the same kind of compassion. And that means that ODL has to look at events all over the world. And when bad things happen to people, we need to be there to help them out, whether it's tsunamis or whether it's earthquakes or whether it's floods. We need to be there, and we need to help in whatever ways that we can those people. That also means taking care of folks in the communities in which we work, through Habitat or through things like United Way. And there may be other kinds of organizations in the communities where we work that we need to be part of. We need to support the school systems and so on and so forth. It also means helping the people in our own company. People go through, we all go through dark places in our lives. We go through tunnels when we really need help. And that's why we have things like the Nancy Fund that we need to keep funded, and we need to help people in our own organization that need help. Finally, being soft means the sparing use of power. There's no place in this organization for bullying behavior. There's no place for intimidation. There's no place for harassment. And if there are those kinds of things in our organization, they have to be rooted out. Soft. Remember it too. Risky. What does it mean to be risky? Well, you all know what the word risk means, but what does it mean for ODL? Well, there are three different kinds of risks that I want to talk about. The first one is product risk. And we have taken a lot of product risks over the years. This is one of the first ones we took back in the late 60s, early 70s, and it was a plastic door light. And this was a kind of risk where, we kind of put it on the red one time, and thankfully it worked, because if it wouldn't have, none of us would be sitting around here talking today, I don't think. But it did work, and it became a mainstay in our business. And because of that risk, we were able to grow our business and so on. But there's also location risks, and for many, many decades, this company operated strictly within the borders of the United States. And we thought that was risky when we went out and put our first warehouses in different parts of the country. And that was risky. But since then, we've gone into Mexico. And we have a significant operation and presence in Mexico. And that is in a different culture, with different languages and different customs. And it's more difficult. It's risky. But it's a risk that we've had to take. And it's proven that it's been a good risk for us. And now we're into China. And China's, and not only is it a border away, it's an ocean away. And its culture is much different. And its language is far different. But we need to be there. We need to take those kinds of location risks. But we also need to take people risks. And by people risks, I mean we need to have an organization that enables people to be whatever they want to be the best they can be. And sometimes that means making education a compelling option. And that's a risk, because sometimes when people get educated, they say, you know what, we can do better someplace else. And we need to give people our blessings when that happens. That we need to give them the opportunity to educate themselves. We need to provide an environment where we move people cross-functionally from one area to another if they choose to move to another area. And finally, we need to take a long time in making people decisions. And sometimes in our culture, that means some sleepless nights on the couch for leaders and management folks. But that's who we are. We're going to take a long time to make decisions on people that have to be made. Risky. You remember that also. So solid, soft, and risky. Solid like that tree trunk. Soft like my dad having compassion on me. And risky, maybe like inventing the plastic door light. Now, I believe that everything we do as a company, from the strategic planning down to the smallest detail of running our business, needs and can be fit under one of those banners. Either solid or soft or risky. Doing that has paid off big for our business over the years. Over time, through Jim Howard's cajoling, our debt went down to nothing, and it turned into cash in the bank that we've been able to use to build our business. We have become a benchmark in our world of residential building products, not only in West Michigan and the United States, but in other parts of the world as well. But anyway, I am very pleased to be able to talk with you about these issues this morning. I thank you for what all of you have done to promote that kind of a culture in our business, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to me and for being who you are. Thank you.